Hey, you're back. Welcome to Season 2 of The People We Meet. My name is Ty Bruner, and I'll be your host. This is a show about ordinary people that have done extraordinary things. I'm glad you're here, and let's get on with it. Hello, and welcome to another episode of The People We Meet. Today I have a guest on the show that I've really been looking forward to talking to for a while. Today we have Dale Storr. Dale was an A-10 pilot in the Air Force, and he had some adventures. Dale, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ty. Nice to be here.
Dale, I kind of start all of these the same way. I'd like to get to know you a little bit. Where were you born?
I was born in Lincoln, Nebraska. My dad was in the Air Force, and he was stationed there flying B-47s.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
And how did you live on base, off base?
We lived, from what I remember, we lived on base. My brother Dave was born there also, but then we moved when I think I was 3 years old out to California. First, we went to Travis Air Force Base, then Mayfair Air Force Base, then Westover Air Force Base in Massachusetts, and then finally to Fairchild. He was a B-52 pilot by then.
Nice. Yeah, I grew up on a base too on Norton Air Force Base.
No.
Yeah, it's shut down now. But
Yeah. Yep.
And so your dad was Air Force. What about your mom?
They were both from Iowa. Grew up in a small town called Pocahontas. Her dad was a farmer. My dad's family lived in town, but they met in high school.
And you got brothers and sisters?
I got my brother Dave right under me. He retired as an admiral in the Navy after being a Marine, flying prowlers. And then he was an ECMO in the prowler. Then my youngest brother Doug, who now flies for Southwest, but he was a C-5 and C-17 pilot in the Air Force. And then my youngest sister Diane, who's the only one smart enough to stay out of the military.
Well, and I guess your brothers kind of end up in the story a little bit later on in the show.
They do. Yep, they all do.
So what was your family like? They
were close. We were all very close. It was tough. My mom had to raise 3 boys while my dad was deployed to Vietnam quite a bit. He was gone a lot, but he loved all of us. He never pushed for us to go in the military. Didn't push us to stay out of the military either. But he was a great athlete, a really good man, and yeah, we all miss him. He died very young, along with my mom, from cancer.
I'm sorry to hear that. He was, how much time did he spend in Vietnam?
Well, he had 312 combat missions in the B-52.
Wow.
So I've never talked to anybody who's had that many missions. I think he has more combat time than I have time in the active duty Air Force.
Wow. That's impressive.
Yeah.
And what was it like growing up for you? I was an Air Force brat. I know what it was like to move around. How did you fare? How did you?
It's always tough, but when we were living on base, it was easier because everybody knew there was always a new kid coming in the class. Every week there was always a new kid. Once we moved to Spokane, it was a little tougher because I went to Salk Junior High and then to Shadle, but everybody at Salk, they weren't used to having these military kids around. So I was a new kid for a long time because at Salk and Shadle, everybody's known everybody since they were in kindergarten.
Yeah.
So it was a little tougher to break in, but luckily I had some real good friends in my neighborhood, so they helped that out quite a bit.
Good. What neighborhood did you live in, if you don't mind?
The north side. We were just up on 5 Mile,
okay.
behind the big water tower there.
Gotcha. What'd you like doing when you were a kid? Were you a troublemaker? Were you a good kid?
I was a good kid. Dave was a troublemaker, but so I liked hanging out with him. But no, I was a good kid. I was pretty small, very small for my size. I grew late. I wasn't even 6 foot when I got out of high school. Now I'm almost 6'6".
I was gonna say, man, yeah. You don't strike me as a kid that was ever small.
I was small, and so I played. Played some church basketball. I never played football. I wasn't big enough. But I enjoyed sports, but I was never good enough to play for my school teams. My brother Dave did, and he actually played for WSU on their JV basketball team.
Huh.
Dave is a really good athlete. Doug is probably the best athlete of us all. But and Hopefully he never hears this podcast, but I don't want him to hear me say that.
I think there's only about 10 people that do. So
I doubt that.
So at what point did you get it into your head that you wanted to be a pilot?
That probably started when I was in junior high, when my dad was flying. But then, so it always intrigued me. He had taken us up, the whole family, in a little airplane one time, and I just infatuated with it. He was also building an airplane when I was in high school with some friends. It was a Stardust 2 home-built biplane, and so I helped him work on that and just enjoyed every second of that. But so the bug bit me early, and I knew I wanted to fly. I didn't know I wanted to fly for the Air Force, but I knew I wanted to fly.
Growing up around, I loved all those planes. Like I sit out on the golf course and watch the 141s come in, and every once in a while a fighter plane would roll through. I built all the models, and I had a couple of the Thunderbolt. I loved the Thunderbolt, and and F-16s and 50. I knew every aircraft in the inventory, but I found out fairly early on that I didn't have perfect vision. And so we moved on to other things. So I was going to tell you, I think it's kind of funny because there are 3 things that every kid wants, that most kids want to, it seems like a lot of kids want to be: fighter pilot, firefighter, and an astronaut. I was like, you know what? If we could round up an astronaut here and sit down, we'd have the trifecta.
So that was one of my goals. Once I did get into the Air Force, it was funny. I was sitting around as a sophomore, and a friend of mine from down the hall who'd been in ROTC as the first 2 years, I wasn't. He said, "Hey, you want to Saturday, doing nothing, you want to come down and take the Air Force OQT test, AFOQT test, officer qualification test?" And I said, "Sure." And so why not? I'll take it. Doesn't commit you to anything. And I had one of the best scores for pilot training, for my pilot aptitude. And it's like, hey, we can offer you. It was funny. They could offer me a full ride scholarship, everything, to be an engineer. So that's, I was studying engineering and I had good grades. It says, or we can give you $100 a month if you want to be a pilot. And I took the pilot. I said $100 a month. My rent was $110, but I passed up a full ride scholarship as an engineer. But then I got a pilot slot. Well, I really wanted to fly the space shuttle, but to do that at the time, you had to go through test pilot school. The only way to go through test pilot school as an Air Force pilot was to be an engineer. So I stuck with my engineering degree, got my pilot slot, graduated, and then I said, "Hey, I'm flying the T-38 now, high performance jet. It's an advanced trainer in pilot training." And I called the test pilot school and said, "I'd like to apply. I had really good engineering grades." And they said, "Yeah, you need high performance jet time." I was like, "Wait a minute, the T-38, that is high performance. That's what you guys fly when you're not doing your test pilot school." Yeah, we know, but you need high performance jet time. So what are you saying? You need a fighter. And so getting a fighter out of being a first assignment instructor pilot, a FAPE, was tough. It was hard. But I kept my nose clean, and I got lucky and got an A10, which is lower performance in the T-38, called the test pilot school, and they said, it counts. And so I was on my way, building my 1,000 hours in the A-10 so I could apply to test pilot school. When I saw a NASA T-38 pull up to base ops in England Air Force Base, where I was based at the time, I was in the soft tower, making sure people weren't doing anything stupid in the pattern like Tom Cruise does in Top Gun, which never happens, and went downstairs and talked to the guy getting out of this NASA T-38 and said, "Are you in the shuttle program?" He goes, "Yeah, I sure am." And it's a super nice guy. He says, "I just put my application in to test pilot school because I want to get there too." And he just looked at me and said, "Sorry, you're not going to make it." And it's like, how do you know? How do you know already that I'm not going to make it? Why are you tearing shredding my hopes here?
Yeah.
He says, "Yeah, the tallest they'll accept people now is 6'2". And they're not even taking guys that are 6'2". And I know you've been slouching your way to 6'4", because that's the limit to be a fighter pilot.
Yeah.
He says, but you're never going to get down to under 6'2". And so,
that's the first thing that I thought because I'd never seen you before until you showed up at my door. And I'm like, this is the tallest goddamn firefighter I've ever seen.
Yeah, most of us aren't this tall. There was one guy in my squadron, Mongo. He was a tall guy. But yeah, it's unusual. 6'4" is normally the limit. And normally it's your sitting height because of the ejection seat.
Sure.
But so my sitting height is pretty good. I got kind of long legs, but I was only 6'5". I'm almost 6'6" now. But what happened is after I quit pulling G's, my spine expanded and I filled out to 6'6". So I was actually only 6'5". And I kept asking, they give me a physical and it's like, you're 6'5". It's like, well, I was 6'4" on my last one. You want to get me a waiver?
You're a grown boy.
No. And they said, no, we're not getting you a waiver. You're 6'4".
Oh, man. So what was, backing up just a little bit, what was the OQS? Is that what you said?
AFOQT, Air Force Officer Qualification Test.
So what was on that test? I meant to ask you that. But
it was, I don't know, it was kind of a mini IQ test. It was general knowledge test, general knowledge questions. There was some English questions. There was a lot of spatial reasoning. A cube looks like this on this view. What's it look like in that view? Will this piece fit there?
Gotcha.
There was some math questions on there. So I thought it was pretty simple, but I'm sure it's much different now. This was 1981 when I took the 81 when I took the test. So that was a while ago.
Well, apparently right now, the highest level cognitive test that we can take is being able to correctly identify a giraffe. So anyway, I digress. Okay. Moving on. So you got your A10 slot.
My pilot training slot.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had to first compete for a pilot training slot. Got accepted into Air Force ROTC, and then was in there for 2 years, my junior and senior year. And when I completed that, got commissioned, and then I went off to pilot training in Enid, Oklahoma at Vance Air Force Base.
So you said you chose the $100 a month for the fighter pilot slot, but you still got your engineering degree. Did you? You didn't get the ride. You didn't get the full ride though.
No, didn't get anything. Got my $100 a month. My rent was $110.
Yeah, I'd have done the same thing.
Oh yeah. No, I loved engineering. That's why I was able to get some good grades there. But I wanted to fly.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew I wanted to fly.
Yeah.
I didn't know I wanted to be an engineer, but I knew I wanted to fly.
So then what happened?
Went to pilot training at Vance, and I remember going to Enid, Oklahoma. Where's Enid, Oklahoma? And one of my instructors says, "Don't worry about it. You're 22 years old. There's a girl behind every tree in Oklahoma." Yeah, but the problem is there's no trees in Oklahoma.
I was like, last time I saw
yeah.
Oklahoma.
But so it was good. Oklahoma is tough. They brought me back after I graduated to be an instructor pilot. Luckily, I got the T-38, or as opposed to the T-37, but which was for basic training. T-38, great airplane. Just love that airplane to death. But anyway, it's a tough environment to learn to fly. It's a tough environment to teach. You deal with weather, a lot of weather in the wintertime with low clouds, a lot of thunderstorms in the summertime, and it's always windy. So you're always landing in a crosswind, and that the students that graduate Vance, they're good pilots. They know how to land in crosswinds. Not taking anything away from the guys that went to Willie or Laughlin or anything like that, but if you make it through Vance, you made it through pilot training.
Nice. Did you enjoy instructing? Did you enjoy?
I do. I was an instructor in the T-38, the A-10, and in the KC-135.
Okay.
So yeah, I really enjoy instructing. I like watching and helping people to learn.
Now, what year is this?
I graduated from pilot training in 1985, and then went to my A-10 assignment, went through lead and fighter training at Holloman Air Force Base, also in the T-38, and that was in 1988, and then I started flying the A-10 in 1989.
Okay. It was interesting. I'm waiting for the part where we kind of cross paths a little bit. But okay, so please continue.
Well, in the A-10, I got assigned to England Air Force Base in Alexandria, Louisiana. Flew for a couple years there, and then in August of 1990, we got alerted. My buddies and I were out on the lake and the Cane River, and sheriff pulls up, and typical, Buford P. Pusser type sheriff. Hey, you boys from that Air Force base? So yeah, we are. Says, you better get on back home right now. And it's like, he's never bothered us. We've been skiing out there for 2 years. He's never said a word to us. So we pulled the boat out of the water. We all went back to our respective squadrons, and it was weird. It was a Saturday afternoon, pull into the squadron with the boat still in trail, and the parking lot's full. Like, what's going on? This is, the time before cell phones. We had no idea, but they'd done a recall, and they had everybody in the squadron. We were the only ones in our civvies. Everybody else is in their bag, and they're getting ready to brief us on we're going to war. So that's how we found out. We came into work Monday, and they put tanks on the airplanes, and we did bag checks. So tanks, we call them bags. So you fly the airplanes around, fill them up, fly them around, make sure all the bags feed. If they don't, they fix them. And then we hung around for about 3 more weeks, and then we finally got the order to deploy over to Saudi Arabia.
Okay. I remember it was late. I can't remember exactly when it was, but I already knew I was going. It was like, okay, we're going. Okay, well, hold on. Okay, we're going. Okay, now hold on. And my dad came down to visit, and we were out driving around, and I had this 280Z, and like I was forever speeding in it, and I got pulled over, and the MP comes up, and I was like, man, I don't need this right now. He's like, what squad are you with? I told him who I was with. He goes, you guys getting ready to go? I said, yeah, day after tomorrow, supposedly. He's like, go on, get out of here. I was like,
slow it down. Yeah.
But yeah, so August of 90 is when we took off.
Yep.
And so sorry, this is your story, not mine. Go ahead.
No, same thing. August 90, we took off with just our bags. We were able to make it to Myrtle Beach. We stayed the night there at the beach, woke up the next day, and then got in the airplanes, started up, and then we had to wait an hour with engines running on the ground while because the tanker broke. Couldn't go without the tanker. They finally got fixed. They took off, and then we went across the pond chasing the tanker. Landed in Morón, Spain, then spent the night there, and then deployed into King Fahd.
What was your thoughts going over there? Because I remember, I was like, okay, we trained for this. This is what we're supposed to be doing. Let's do it. But I remember there was a thing that, like, the Iraqi army was the 4th largest army in the world at the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, some of us are going up against all of them. I'm not sure how this is going to go. What were your thoughts?
Well, I wasn't too worried. I mean, you're worried, but I was pretty confident in our abilities because I'd been to 2 red flags, and I've seen what the rest of our Air Force can do. I mean, we're like redheaded stepchilds. What's that?
What's a red flag?
Red flag is it's a big exercise at Nellis Air Force Base. It's where they bring in all the F-15s, all the F-16s, A-10s, and sometimes they'll have Harriers there, Hornets there. Never saw any Tomcats there, but they'll bring in all kinds of airplanes, and they just do war games. And I just knew how the F-15s employed and the F-16s employed in their air-to-air configurations. Like, there's no one beating them. There's no one that can touch them. I mean, we were all a little worried about the MiGs. What are the MiGs going to do? But the Eagles were it's so incredible. So I was concerned about that, but I was more concerned about, ground fire. What are, the SAMs and that kind of stuff. How effective are we going to be against that? I knew I wasn't going upstairs and, tangling with any MiGs or anything like that. But, it's how am I going to employ on the ground, and how are they going to use us? So never having been shot at or been to war, I really didn't know what to expect. So once we got there, we had great leadership, and they forced us into what's called a low threat war and low threat tactics. So it's just the opposite. It sounds weird, but low threat means you fly high. You're staying out of the AAA range and that kind of stuff. A high threat war, you fight low because you're trying to stay out of the radar threat. High threat is radar, low threat is AAA. So we've been training in Louisiana. 90% of our training was for a high threat war, fighting the Russians, on the Fulda Gap in Germany, where all the tanks are coming through and all the SAM sites are, so we were training for that. Luckily, we had some really smart leadership, a couple of guys who had been in Vietnam, and said, "This isn't going to be a high threat war, boys. You're going to start practicing your low threat tactics, and you're going to learn them fast." And we did, because that's what we fought, was a low threat war.
Interesting. Now, what were your thoughts on the A-10? I know you loved C-38, and the A-10 it's kind of a different aircraft, and it's got that legendary GAU.
Yeah, it's got the big gun. And that's, the A-10's built around the gun. That's what everybody says. It's also built around being carrying a lot of weapons and having a lot of loiter time. They did tell us in training, it's going to take all these hits, you got all these backup systems. And you believe that. You're a student, you believe that. And I was an engineer. It's like, I understand how they routed everything and all the backup systems. And so I had a lot of faith in the airplane that way. I like the titanium armor around the cockpit. And employing the gun. I didn't know how effective that was going to be, but it's very effective in a war like that. And the Maverick missiles were incredible. Talk about those later, but I was pretty confident in the airplane and in our tactics and our leadership. We had from the top down, our leadership was incredible. And especially when you got into the lower ranks, because you deal with those more, right? So I was a wingman when I got there into Operation Desert Shield, but I upgraded to an element lead. So that means I could lead one more guy into war. I upgraded while we were over there training. But our instructors, our flight leads, our weapons officers, just incredible guys, super smart. They were never trying to make you feel stupid. They were always trying to bring you to their level. So just outstanding leadership in that respect.
Awesome. It's hard to come by sometimes.
It is. It really is.
Now, were your brothers at this time? Because I know both the brothers, one C5 and the other one...
Intruders, EA-6Bs.
Oh, so they're both pilots.
Yeah, Dave was an ECMO, an electronic countermeasures officer, Marine Corps. He was in Bahrain in Sheikh Isa, flying the Prowler. And then Doug was flying the C5 at the time, and he was going in and out of theater constantly. So I got to see Dave over Christmas Eve. They let us off base, which was rare. I mean, I never got off base. Off of King Fahd, but there was another pilot there with me, Scott. I can't remember his first name. John Scott. He had a brother over in Sheikh Isa also, who was a maintenance guy, and so they let us off base, and we drove over to Sheikh Isa, and had a great time with them on Christmas Eve. Nice.
And then how was your family feeling about all this?
I knew how Dave was feeling. Dave was ready to go. He was, fangs were out. He's a Marine.
Yeah.
So he was ready to go.
And like your mom and dad?
My dad had already passed, but my mom, she had seen my dad fly 300 combat missions in Vietnam. So I don't think she liked it, but she knew what to expect. And I'm sure she expected all three of us to come home.
So this gets interesting later on. So go ahead, please continue. So there's no, at this time, there's no email. There's no, you're not texting your cell phones or anything like that. So, I mean, comms were difficult. You didn't get to make very many phone calls. And so I was just wondering, like, if you encountered the same thing I did when we got there. We went a long time with no mail.
No.
And there was like kind of a scary, shitty feeling when we first got there, because what was it? Baghdad Betty she played
something like that. Yeah.
Played cool music, but she had some really nasty messages.
I didn't listen to it.
Go home, U.S. Marines, or the sands of Saudi Arabia are going to swallow you up. Anyway, so the mail was not getting through for a long time. Like, I hadn't heard anything from my family, my girlfriend. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And Baghdad Betty says, well, you haven't gotten any mail because they know you're all dead, and they're at home protesting the war in the streets. You're not going to hear from them. And I was like, holy shit, No, we didn't. The smart part of me didn't believe it.
Yeah,
but then one day the floodgates opened and all that stuff came through, and any service member letters from just kids, and it was amazing. And I was just wondering if you encountered any of that.
Yeah, we went probably 4 or 5 weeks without mail, but it finally did catch up, and then it all just started pouring in. And then, I wrote tons of letters. I told my friends, just letting them know what I was doing and trying to get, what's going on back there, and, what do you hear? And then there was tons of, remember all the candy that came in? Oh, we got tons of candy.
Yeah, I remember that, because they had like this list that they put out, like, these are the things that the service members need.
Yeah.
And it was like hard candy. So like just bucket loads of Brax, candies showed up, and beef jerky and Pringles and
Lifesavers. We got tons of Lifesavers.
Which, not to be confused with the Charms that you got in the MREs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They were good. Tons of mail. But it was really slow going back and forth. And but that was the best comm that we had. That's the only comm we had. I couldn't make phone calls back home. So that's how that worked for us.
So so where are we at this point? You are what's our date?
Oh, well, it was like that from August. This was so brutally hot, and then till the day the war started, which for us was on the 17th.
How brutally hot was it for you? I know I was in a fucking tent, and I'm pretty sure that A-10 pilots had much finer accommodations.
We were not in tents. No, that's why I joined the Air Force. I'm glad you liked your tents. I
didn't say I liked my tent. I just said that's where I was.
I thought Marines loved that stuff. Weren't they the temper tents or something that had air conditioning in them?
Fuck no.
Oh man, the Army had those. But no, we were in. We had single wide trailers. And they just stuck 4 guys to a room, 2 bunk beds, and that's what we had.
Nice. Well, it's definitely a step up. Go ahead, tell me some more about the heat.
It was hot. It was brutally hot in August and September. But all we had to do was go outside, get in the van, go to ops, get in another air conditioning double wide, do your flight planning, file, and then step to the airplane, and then. As soon as you got your motor started, you're sweating, wearing all your gear, going out to the jet. But once you got the engine started, you put that canopy down and crank the AC. Yeah, and that's the only way to fight a war is 20,000 feet in air-conditioned comfort.
That's right. So what would, so go ahead. And then when everything kicked off.
So, while I was there, so for 6 months, we did those training sorties. Occasionally, we got to drop live. They found a range somewhere. They built a range, something. I don't know what they did. But got a lot of good training there. So every 10th sortie, you got to do a low level. That was just the constant carrot. So you have something fun to do and go chase camels or do whatever. But luckily, like I said, we had great training. And then we knew something was going to happen. So the way I knew, we're coming home from chow one day, and every day we drive by about at least a 1 square mile patch of Army. And it was the 82nd and 101st Airborne, 2 divisions, Army guys, and they were all living there all the time. Anyway, we drive back from chow, and it's getting close. This is like the 14th or 15th of January. We know it's getting close, but no one knows the day. No one knows when it's going to kick off. And we're going to breakfast the next morning in the standard van, and they are gone. The 82nd and 101st are gone. They disappeared. There wasn't a plastic water bottle left where they were. There was nothing. There wasn't a scrap of anything. I don't know how the Army did it. Those guys are amazing. And someone driving in the car said, who doesn't think there's going to be a shooting war now? I mean, you get 2 divisions of Army to disappear overnight and didn't hear a thing. They didn't make a sound. I don't know how you do that. That's magic to me.
They even picked up their Al-Wadi bottles on the way out.
Yeah, Al-Wadi, yeah. But it was incredible. And sure enough, then we got the brief. Tomorrow we're going to war. And I got lucky. I got to be in the first wave and the first day of the attack. Me and my combat pair, Eric Bolt Miller, who unfortunately was involved in the mid-air 6 months after we got back from the war and died. But great kid. But actually, I was with Rasta. Eric Bolt was my wingman the day I got shot down. I was flying with Rasta. He was my combat pair for the whole war. But we got to go in the first day, first wave, and that was pretty intense. But
That was just the air campaign, right? The ground war, because
It doesn't start for a while.
Yeah, it didn't.
No, this is all air.
Okay, yeah, because it was, I forgot how many weeks. It seemed like it was only like 2 weeks, but
no, it went
was it longer?
longer.
I just remember.
Yeah. It was funny. That was one of the questions. When I did get shot down, I was being interrogated. One of the questions. What's that?
No, go ahead. Sorry.
One of the questions the interrogators would always ask was, "When's the ground war going to start?" And you know, it's what? It's like, I don't know. Keep beating me, hit me more, but it's great when you don't know the answer because you don't have to resist.
Right.
It's tough when you do know the answer, and it's like, you know, if I say something, they'll stop hitting me. But if you don't know the answers, hit me some more. I don't care.
So how many missions did you get in before you got shot down?
I got shot down on my 17th.
17th. So what were the first 16 like? What was that?
It was pretty straightforward stuff. Every now and then you'd see some airbursts from AAA. But you know, I never saw a missile shoot at me or anything like that. I did get chased by a couple MiGs, but they were just converging on my position. But 2 F-15s came in and chased them into Iran. Unfortunately, couldn't shoot them down. But it was usually take off and you go to what's called a kill box, and so you're just assigned a portion of Iraq, and you go in there and you look for targets. And that's exactly what we do. I flew with binoculars, which is really tough because the whole airplane's vibrating. And I don't know if you've ever tried to look through something and they're vibrating. It blurs everything. But figured out a way to take my hands off the controls, lean forward, get out of my ejection seat, and I can kind of space stabilize. And but that's the only way I can find targets with binoculars.
Did you find a lot?
Yeah, found a lot. Because I was of the opinion, you know, if I don't get rid of this stuff that's on my wings, somebody else is going to have to bring it up here and get rid of it for me.
Yeah.
So I always found something to put my bombs on, put my Mavericks into. I'd empty the gun. In fact, every sortie I flew came back with an empty gun. And I tell you what, the ground pounders love that. When you come back empty, clean wings and an empty gun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you know what? That's just one more sortie closer to going home.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yep. So
taking care of business.
Yep. So
I would imagine after 7. So now you're like, okay, so this is combat flying.
Yeah.
How is your confidence level at this point?
Probably higher than it should have been.
Yeah.
I think that's what gets me in trouble. In fact, I know that's what gets me in trouble. Yeah, it was pretty confident. I was pretty confident in my abilities, not only to employ the weapon system, but to lead other people into employing it. It was funny. One day, I was sitting in the scheduling shop, and so in the natural progression, you become a wingman, then you become an element leader, then a flight lead, then instructor for flight leads, and then an evaluator for everybody. Well, my squadron commander had given me my element lead upgrade and check ride. And so now I can lead a 2-ship. I'm just sitting there in scheduling one day. I'm flying the next day, and they're out of 4-ship flight leads. They're out. They're all used up. They're either in crew rest or they're already flying missions. And the scheduler just looks at me and says, "Hey, Storrman, can you lead a 4-ship to the tanker and then into this kill box?" It's like, "Yeah, I think I can." It's like, "All right, boom, you're a 4-ship flight lead." So I got my combat upgrade to 4-ship flight lead during Desert Shield or Desert Storm. And then the funny story of that is then I come home and we're getting like a year later, we're getting an inspection from Tactical Air Command Headquarters. They're going through my grade book. And it's like,
"You can't do this."
Wait, you can do that in combat, but you can't do it in peacetime. So it's like, got it. So my DO, our weapons officer, says, "Yeah, I'll check you out." So, yeah.
So how many missions did you fly under that under your new status?
I only did that once. Took him to the tanker, led him into a kill box.
Oh, okay.
So I only did it once, but it wasn't that hard. So I wasn't really a 4-ship flight lead, but I pretended to be one.
You played one on TV.
Yeah, I played one for a day.
So let's talk about mission number 17.
Yeah. So on that one, I was.
Do me a favor, just paint the picture. Like just the morning of,
Yeah.
like just how everything kind of rolled out, because the briefings are interesting and, just.
Yeah. So, Hansi, the scheduler who I'd trained, I'd been a flight scheduler before, said, hey, Storman, you're flying tomorrow. We got the early go. It was, I think our first go was 6 a.m. takeoff. And he said, but, I got this kid, Bolt, Eric Miller. He hasn't shot the gun yet. We're 3 weeks into the war. He hasn't shot the gun. He's flying with somebody that just doesn't use the gun much or employ it very well. And he said, would you mind taking him on your wing and, going up and using the gun? Because everybody knows I come back with an empty gun every time I fly.
Yeah.
And he says, sure. Yeah, I'll take him up. And so normally I'm flying with Rasta, my combat pair. So the briefs between he and I are, this is what time we're, checking in. This is what time we're taking off. This is what time we'll be back, at the barn. Because we briefed each other so many times, we can read each other's mind.
Mm-hmm.
So that night, Bolt and I do our briefs, our regular flight lead or element lead and wingman briefs. And then next morning we wake up, let's be on the van at 5:15. We'll go to chow. We'll get to ops, throw our stuff on, go out and, light them up and we'll take off. First sortie was pretty uneventful. Took off, went to a kill box, found some targets. As we were leaving the kill box and heading back to KKMC to rearm, we weren't going to FOD, we went to KKMC. I got a call from a FAC, and he said, hey, you guys got anything left to put on this truck park? I said, we are Winchester. We are clean wings and empty guns. We got nothing. But I wrote it down on my map, just in case. So we go back, rearm, refuel, and they put us on alert. So we're sitting there by the edge of the runway in the arming area with our engines running, and then we get scrambled to meet Combat 1-1, a fast FAC. It's a F-18. And it's like, all right, take off. And so how Kuwait kind of makes that boot, kind of boot shape? We were holding right there in the boot and waiting for this fast FAC to show up. And we're probably there 30 minutes. I'm talking to AWACS. I'm trying to find this guy, and we got no sign of him. Mm-hmm. He hasn't checked in with anybody. Nobody knows where this fast FAC is. I still don't know whatever happened to him. Combat 1-1, that was his call sign. But so I talked to Bookshelf and said,
What's Bookshelf?
Bookshelf was a targeting center, and that's where you passed your BDA to battle damage assessment and any other target information that you might have after you hit a target. So I called Bookshelf up and said, we can't find this guy. We're running out of gas. Can I go where I know there are some targets? In Vietnam, that was, no, you're done. If you don't hit the target you were assigned to, you're going home. You're bringing all that stuff home. Mm-hmm. These guys, in less than a minute later, said, oh, yeah, you're cleared. It's like, cool. So Bolt and I push north, and we find some targets. We get rid of our gravity bombs, and we're getting ready to come back home, back to KKMC. When it's like, hey, we're going right by that truck park that we got FAC'd in on earlier. Mm-hmm. And I found it on the map, found it on the ground. I said, we're going in. And so I went in with my first pass, 45-degree dive. The hard deck at that time was 7. So that means you can't go below 7,000 feet. And from that altitude, when you start shooting, your bullets, you don't see your bullets hit the ground. As you're pulling off and clearing the target, your bullets still haven't hit. Mm-hmm. So your wingman watches, and he tells you where your bullets are going. So my first pass, I came in, pulled off, and I was pretty good with the gun by then, had a lot of practice. Mm-hmm. And I missed. My bullets went long. Mm-hmm. And he says, Storman, you missed. Bullets went long. And so I'm pissed. And that was a big mistake. So now I've woken up everybody on the ground, and they know somebody's shooting at them. So I climb up, do a couple penalty laps, get my energy back, come in from a high altitude again, different direction, and this time I let them have it. My first round was about 300. First pass was 300 rounds. Second pass was about 600 rounds. Mm-hmm. And I was throwing bullets all over the place. But as I'm climbing up and pulling off, looking for Bolt, he comes on the radio and says, good hits, good secondaries. So the hits are the bullets hitting the trucks, the secondaries, trucks blowing up.
Yep.
And so I'm thinking, shit hot. Well, I'm looking for Bolt, see if I can clear him in, because haven't seen any AAA coming from these guys yet. And that's when something hit the airplane. I never saw it. Bolt never saw it. But it felt like a 50,000-pound sledgehammer hit the airplane, and it was very abrupt. It was very loud. But I instantly looked inside, and it's just one of those instinctive things you do. 2 good engines are still running, so I know I got power. 2 good hydraulic systems, so I know I can control the airplane. So then I went to my emergency panel right down here, see what kind of problems I have. There's nothing on there. It's like, so I guess I must be all right. Well, the airplane's I was in a climbing left-hand turn, the airplane's slowly rolling to the right, and I'm unconsciously feeding in left stick just to stop it while I'm going through all this assessment, when I feel the stick hit the stop at the side of the airplane. And you never, ever feel that when you're flying. You feel it on the ground when you're wiping out flight controls, but you never feel it hit the stop when you're driving. It's like feeling a steering wheel hit a stop when you're driving down the highway.
Sure.
You never feel
right.
It never happens. And so that's when I knew I was in trouble. Then the airplane just kept rolling off to the right, and I didn't know it, but I find out after the war, I'd been hit right under the ejection seat where all the control cables come together into the cockpit, and it had sliced all the control cables.
Oh.
So anyway, the airplane rolls off to the right. I instantly get on the radio, and there's 3 radios in the A-10. The FM radio is what I talked to you on, talked to my wingman on. And so I instantly keyed that and said, "Hey, Bolt, I'm hit bad." I didn't know it because I didn't know where I'd been hit, but that also, the FM antenna is right under the ejection seat. So
that
they'd been blown off. So the FM antenna had been blown off. And so as I'm transmitting to Bolt, he never hears me. He never hears I'm hit and I'm hit bad. Airplane keeps continuing to roll over. Then Bolt talks to me on what's called our uniform UHF radio. And we use that to deconflict with all the other airplanes going in and out of the kill boxes so we don't run into each other. Well, just being a wingman, he decides to call me on that. And he says, he saw after a couple rolls, he thought I was going after another target. He said, "Storr man, recover," because he thought my nose was getting too low. Well, it was. And then anyway, he does a couple more rolls, and then he says something on the radio that you never say because you don't know who's going to hear it and what they're going to do. But he said, "Storr man, eject," because you don't want people popping out of airplanes all over the place.
Right.
Well, he said that, but I knew I was only 6 miles from the border. I could see the border of Saudi Arabia. And so it's like, I don't want to jump out yet. Not yet. If I can get this thing flying for a second, I'll head south and then I'll jump. But anyway, I just stayed with it too long. And then I started getting what's called channelized attention. It's like, what have I done wrong? There must be something I can do to fix this, to get this airplane flying again. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know all the control cables are cut. I'm thinking I've done something wrong. I've done some, because I've isolated my speed brakes and my flaps. I think I've done something wrong. I've gone to manual reversion. I've done something wrong. And so I'm staring at my emergency flight control panel by my left leg when, I don't know why, but I think God just grabbed my head and said, "Look out the window, stupid." And it was nothing but rocks. I could see not just the big rocks, but now you can start seeing the little rocks.
You're low.
And as a guy who spends his life down low, you know when you're too low. And so I thought I was dead. I didn't think I was going to make it, but I grabbed the hand grips and went up the rails. I remember the canopy coming off. I remember the white smoke coming up between my legs. I remember the seat kicking me in the butt and going up. And I remember kept all of our secrets down here for basically comm secrets. Remember seeing those get torn off and thinking, now I'm in trouble because I've lost my secrets. Because you never want to lose your secrets. And
were they on the knee board?
Knee boards.
Yeah, and it came just, it
tore right off.
Just
because my head got kicked down.
Yeah,
and I could see everything come off. And then I remember they teach you in pilot training, beat the seat, which means if the seat doesn't automatically kick you out, try to get out of it yourself. Well, I reached down to try to beat the seat. The seat had already kicked me out. The seat it's ACES 2 ejection seat. It was super smart. It knew I was down low, really slow. I needed a parachute right away. So it kicked me out, and the first thing they teach you is canopy. So look back and see if you got a canopy. And I tried looking back, kicking my head back, but I couldn't do it. just because of the geometry of the ejection. But I finally kept my head back there and finally saw the chute open up. And then the very next thing I hear as soon as I see my chute open up is this huge explosion. And I look down and it's my airplane blowing up right below me. And it's like, oh, geez.
That was close.
Yeah. It's like, I can't believe I lived through the ejection because I thought it was too low. Now I can't believe I'm going to die in the fireball from my own airplane. So I try to get it to drift away, and I can't. And luckily I had all my gear on because I saw myself going into the fireball. I just closed my eyes. It got really, really hot. And I just kept my eyes closed thinking it's going to burn me to death or it's going to melt my chute and I'm dead. But then I felt this rush of cold air and I looked up, my chute's fine. And now I'm thinking, I can't believe I just lived through that. And
so what exactly happened? Like how did you end up not, I mean, the chute just caught and you ended up above it?
The chute opened up, the airplane hits the ground right below me because I was going almost straight down when I ejected. And then the fireball came up and I went through it.
Oh, you did go through it?
I did go through the fireball. It got smoking hot.
Damn.
But I survived it. I wasn't in it long enough to do any real damage. And that's when I looked down and saw the ground. And while I was coming down, I could see the truck park, which was maybe a mile away, not very far. And I could see it burning. And then I could see a truck coming from the truck park through the desert, heading right towards my crash site. And I remember thinking, these guys are going to be pissed.
No shit. You just blew it through.
Yeah. I missed on the first pass and came in and tried and got him again. But so anyway, I'm coming down thinking I'm going to break both my legs in this real rocky, rough terrain. What I can't see is a sand dune that's behind me or a big capped off oil well that's got a giant sand dune built up in front of it. And that's what I land in. Softest sand you can possibly find. And so I didn't have a scratch on me when I hit the ground.
Wow.
But
you got lucky 3 times, man.
Yeah. And anyway, get on the ground, get out from under my chute. They don't teach you that, but that chute, when it comes down on the top of you, it's a mess. Finally get out of that. I get out, so now I'm going to try to hide, right? You know, I'm like 200 feet from my airplane and there's a big sand berm that I just landed in. So I decide, other than that, it's a flat desert.
Yeah, where are you going to go?
I'm going to hide behind the sand dune because they'll never look there. And anyway, grab my radio out of my survival vest because I want to make sure people in the air know that I'm on the ground. Well, I tried to call AWACS. Ponca was her call sign at the time, and nothing. No response. I tried calling Bolt, my wingman. It's on guard. Everybody's supposed to be on 230-40. Talking to him on guard, nothing. No response. I said, Bolt, I need bullets on this truck right now. Nothing. Well, I found out again after the war, I had a yellow training radio in my survival vest, so it was set on training freaks. So no one ever heard me on the ground. So, and that was my own fault due to I was doing before we deployed, I was a Sandy who trains Sandys, which are guys that rescue pilots that have been shot down.
Yeah.
I was helping them, and so I went out in the bayou, and life support gives you a training radio in your survival vest, so you're not trashing out the real guard and the real 2828, which is a rescue freak. And so I had a training radio in my survival vest. Well, the next day, that's when we all got alerted, and so life support never got around to putting the real one back in my survival vest, and I never pre-flighted it. So yeah, it got stuck there and flew with it for 6 months that way. And yeah, that's bad on me for not pre-flighting it. But yeah, so I had a training radio, and that's why no one ever heard me in the air, and then no one heard me on the ground. And Bolt, my chute was only visible for a couple seconds before I went in the fireball, so he never saw the parachute. And yeah, that's what he reported when he got home was
no shoots.
Saw my airplane get hit, saw it spiral into the ground. No radio calls from him in the air, never any radio calls from him on the ground, and I never saw a parachute.
So they think you're dead.
That's that, yeah. And anyway, that's what he takes on. That's all they knew. So when he gets back to KKMC or back to King Fahd, he did a great job, by the way. He leads the Sandys launch out of KKMC, and it was Fish Salmonson and Karl Marx. I was their flight commander. So they were good friends of mine. And they got my isoprep card, and they launched thinking they're going to come rescue me. And
what's an isoprep card?
It's a card that you fill out that only you know.
Mm-hmm.
So when the guys on the ground are trying to make contact with you, so they don't get spoofed in. So a bad guy on the ground is saying, "Yeah, I'm Uzi 11. That was my call sign. Yeah, why don't you come in a little closer? Why don't you come and rescue me?" And then we blow you out of the sky.
Mm-hmm.
So there's things like, where'd you go to high school? What was your best friend's name in high school? What street did your mom grow up on? Stuff that the bad guys aren't going to be able to find, but you put on this isoprep card so the Sandies know that it's actually you on the ground. So they got much more sophisticated ways to do it now, but that's how we did it back then.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
But so anyway, Bolt gets home, or these two guys launch, and they come in over my crash site, and they go down there. The Iraqis had picked up my parachute, and they had stashed all their stuff on the truck, and they hauled us away. We all went away. But Bolt or Fish came down at 100 feet over my crash site. He said there was people, they were shooting everywhere. They got one guy, they want to kill everybody, right, that's coming over that crash site. And he said they had Vipers, they had Strike Eagles, they had Hornets stacked up. It's called a king stack that they can use to bring in and take out bad guys down there. And he says, we turned that place into a parking lot. I said, well, Fish, did you ever think I might be down there trying to escape and evade? He said, no, we thought you were dead. So we killed everybody down there. It's like, well, I'm glad I got out of there. But anyway, so Bolt goes back and he debriefs my wing commander and my brother, who had been in a sortie, they was briefing to fly. His commander said, you're not flying today, pal.
Yeah. And
he goes and gets on the phone, the secure phone, the Stu 3, calls my squadron just as Colonel Sawyer's walking out of the debriefing room and says, hey, what can I do for you? And says, well, what can you tell me about my brother? Says, well, this is what we know. Said, wingmen saw your airplane get hit, spiral into the ground, no radio calls. That's what we know. And so he's a tactical aviator. He's like, all right, I know what that means.
Pretty ominous.
Yeah, I know what that means. So he got sent home, and Doug got sent home too. And so I kind of ruined the war for both of them.
It's very selfish of you.
I know. But they both went home knowing that I was dead.
Oh, man.
But they never told my mom, but they told my friends. But yeah, that's how that got out.
So you, all this is going on, but you hid behind a sand dune, which obviously didn't work out for very long.
No, they walked right up the flatbed truck, and they sent out, no kidding, the youngest, dumbest, stupidest kid that was in the back of that truck. And they all had, this is when I knew the war was over. They all have different gear on. They don't look like they're in any kind of disciplined army at all. Mm-hmm. So this kid comes walking up to the sand dune with his AK-47, screaming and yelling at me, and I'm on my radio. And it's like, finally I said, hey, Bolt, they got me. And I throw my radio down, put my hands up. Then they all come off the truck. Now they're all tough guys. Mm-hmm. And so, you're going to get beat up. Yeah. And it wasn't, they didn't, break any bones or anything. But yeah, you take your licks, you're going to get hit and punched and kicked. And while they're doing that, the war's loud. The war is super loud. Bombs are going off. Guns are shooting. I had no idea how loud this thing is. I mean, these guys got to have permanent 900% PTSD because it's just a train wreck down there. But anyway, that's the first thing that shocked me. So all this stuff is blowing up. Well, then my 30 millimeter, I had 100 rounds of 30 millimeter left in my gun. It starts popping off. It starts cooking off. It's like, dudes, we gotta go. They don't care. They don't care. And it's like, this is bad. One of those things comes over here and, an HEI round, high explosive incendiary round, and it cooks off, we're dead. We're all dead. They don't care. They don't care. Well, then I have this Maverick missile that had a bad seeker head on it, so I couldn't use it. It's a 500-pound missile. It decides to cook off. They're loud in the airplane when they go off. It's a freight train going by when you're that close, and it cooks off and goes straight up. It's still got the launcher rail on it. The launcher rail came off the airplane when it crashed, and the missile cooks off. Doesn't go very high, but doesn't get enough G on it to arm, and just boom, it spikes into the desert. And they all stopped and watched that thing go up, and it's just like, and if it had gone off, it had armed, we would have been dead.
Yeah.
But it didn't get enough G on it to arm. It's got to have enough acceleration to arm itself. It's a safety thing, thank God. and it didn't. It just spiked into the ground.
So how far from you was it when it?
It was, so it kind of took off the nose of the airplane and went in. So it probably spiked down about 250 feet away from us. So, but
it just straight up and straight down.
Yeah, embedded into the desert. I got a picture of it. One of the Army guys sent me a picture.
I was going to say,
hey
guys, hang on a second. Let me.
Yeah, but so when that cooked off, it's like, okay, now it's time to go. So they got their licks in, and then I went off and got my first interrogation.
Did they speak any English?
Not really.
Yeah.
No, none of those guys did.
And were they as pissed off? I mean, yeah, they kind of beat you up a little bit. Were they as pissed off as you thought they were going to be?
I thought they'd be more. But what I didn't know, Hussein had put a bounty on pilots. Hussein put a bounty, and so you guys get like 10 grand a piece. Anybody who gets a pilot back to Baghdad.
Do you reckon he paid?
I doubt it.
I kind of doubt it too. So anyway, go ahead.
But anyway, so we get to the first, my first interrogations, this Quonset hut type thing. You know what Quonset hut is. And so there's a lieutenant colonel, because I knew the Iraqi ranks, sitting behind a desk. And there was a guy who said he was a helicopter in a flight suit, and then me. Then opposite that was 3 guys, an interrogator, another interrogator, and then a guard. And they are talking to each other, and their normal tone of voice is they yell. They just, everything they do, they're yelling. And anyway, they're blah, 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 back and forth. And the guy next to me is like, hey, I'm a helicopter pilot, so you'll be fine. It's like, sure. Yeah, I'll be fine. Anyway.
And that's what he said to you?
Yeah.
Like just kind of conversationally?
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. As these guys are arguing in Arabic, and I'm handcuffed. And anyway, they finally get down. It takes them like 45 minutes to get their shit together. And it's like, okay. The guy's ready to start asking you questions. Okay, so what's your name? And said, Richard Storr, because I go by Dale, but my first name's Richard. I said, Captain Richard Storr. He says, okay, what airplane do you fly? It's like, it's parked like 2 miles from here. Like, I'm sure you guys can go figure that out. He said, an A-10. And he says, what's your address? I said, you mean my address here in Saudi Arabia? I was going to give him, my APO address. He goes, no, mister, no. What's your home address back in the United States? I said, well, you don't need to know that.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I must have it. It's like, nah, I don't want to tell you my home address. He goes, no, I'll tell you. You must tell me. I have to have it. And it's like, according to the Geneva Convention, and as soon as I said that, it's like, no, you're not a prisoner. You're a criminal. You're going to be tried for your crimes against Iraq and blah, 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 all the standard stuff that they teach at survival school. And it's like, yeah, I still, no, I don't want to give it to you. And so this lieutenant colonel who's been behind his desk, doing paperwork the whole time, not fighting the war, but doing paperwork like lieutenant colonels do. I don't know what he does, what this guy says to him, but this guy jumps out of his chair, comes over screaming and yelling at me in Arabic, because that's going to help.
Yeah.
He's got a Colt 45, not a Colt 45. I got 2 of them, so I know what they are. He's got 2. He's got one. Chambers around, walks over to me, jams it up the side of my head, and starts screaming and yelling at me in Arabic. I have no idea what he's saying. And the guy across from me just looks at me and says, tell me your home address before he kills you. And I looked at him and said, 997 Twin Bridges Road, Alexandria, Louisiana. It's like, what else do you want to know? I am scared to death.
Yeah.
And he said, how many missions have you flown? I said, 10. First number that came into my mind. I was so scared I couldn't think straight. I was on my 17th. 10. He said, what was your target? I said, artillery. I was strafing a truck park. Artillery. He goes, okay, that's all we need to know. Off we go. It's like, so 2 things about that. 1, somebody points a gun to your head, you're going to talk. You're going to do whatever they tell you to do. 2, it's a horrible interrogation technique, because you're going to say whatever pops into your brain.
Yeah.
And it's, whether it's true or not, that's what you're going to tell them.
I can believe it.
So, yeah. So that was my first interrogation. So from there, it was a truck ride. And then second real interrogation was at this really nice, what do you call it, kind of a farmhouse, but it had a nice patio and whatever. This guy told me his name was Muhammad, Major Muhammad. He spoke very good English. So he trained in Russia and in the U.S. So he'd flown the F-5, so we could talk T-38, and he was really nice. The guards brought me in. They had tied my boots together, and I was still handcuffed. And he made him take my handcuffs off and untied my boots, asked me if I wanted to use the water closet. He was very nice. I did. Came back out.
Can I ask something real quick?
Yeah.
How did a guy end up flying the F-5? Like, under what circumstances?
Back when we were friendly with Iraq.
Okay.
Friendly with Iraq and Iran.
Okay.
Yeah. So, we weren't going to let them fly an F4 or anything like that, which is our plane of the day back then. But yeah, they fly an F5. I was an export fighter.
So he'd been around a bit. He wasn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
And
Go ahead.
Yeah. And he could talk the talk. So, the T-38 and the F5 were very similar. So, we had a great conversation about that. He offered me some tea. At first I didn't drink it. And he says, I know what you're thinking. So he poured 2 cups. And he drank one. He said, the tea's fine. You don't have to worry about it. And so since he didn't ask me for anything for the tea, you can take it. But if you tell me something, you'll give you this food, then you have to say, I can't take the food.
Mm-hmm.
But if he says, here's some food, eat it.
Yeah.
Here's some tea, drink it. So I did. And that's when we started talking about the T-38 and blah, blah, blah. And then he finally came down to it. He says, okay, now, I have to ask you some questions. Kind of figured that. He says, and this is the weirdest thing. He said, now, whatever you tell me now, you have to tell the engineers in Baghdad. It's like, the engineers? What are you talking about, pal? I don't know if he just misspoke or didn't know what he was meant, but I said, okay. So in my mind, it's like, are you telling me to lie? Are you telling me to make up a story and just make sure I can do it again up there? So that's how I took it. And so I fabricated this whole story about where I was from, what I was doing,
Mm-hmm.
who my commanders were. And it was all based on Vance, so I could repeat it, but it was all a total fabrication.
Mm-hmm.
It was all a lie. But anyway, and then from there, we had a couple more stops, heard my first B-52 strike at night on my way up to Baghdad. And then finally got to a place we called the Biltmore. And that's where the real interrogation started. They were bad. I had 3 days of those, always blindfolded and handcuffed. Didn't eat anything, did not get any water.
What kind of stuff did they ask you?
Everything. Name, rank, where you based, who are your commanders, where are your targets, where are your tactics, where are all the other airplanes, when's the ground war going to start, just everything you can think of. Tell me about your airplane. What do you carry on station 1? What do you carry on station 2? Blah, 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 this and that. So everything.
Did you make shit up for that?
It was all lies. Yeah.
Okay.
Everything was lie.
Yeah.
The stuff on the A-10, he was reading out of the, I guarantee you, because, who calls them stations? Only
Mm-hmm.
COG guys, only A-10 guys call them stations. So
Yeah.
But if you read Jane's All the World's Airplanes, yeah, they call them stations. So it's like, he's reading Jane's. He's got a book.
What'd you tell him you were carrying?
Mark 82s, which I was, slicks, dumb bombs. Those are Vietnam era weapons.
Mm-hmm.
The gun. I didn't tell him about the AIM-9s because that was kind of a new addition to the airplane, but never used one anyway. Never shot one. And the Mavericks, but that's right there. And I didn't tell him about the IR Mavericks. I didn't tell him how they guided. I just said, yeah, we got the, Maverick missile. It's right there in Jane's All the World's Handbook, and didn't tell him about the pave penny. That was new, but never used it.
I don't know what that is.
It's a targeting pod.
Oh.
It was the start of the art in targeting pods. Somebody could laze on the ground and they tell you what frequency they're using. You put the pave penny on there and it would put a dot in your HUD, what it was looking at.
Okay.
So it was really simplistic, but that I don't think he didn't even know about that. And I didn't know much about it anyway. So, those interrogations were bad because I would start using the survival techniques that they taught out here at Fairchild. And this guy, his English was perfect, would just stop me and say, I know what you're doing. You're using such and such technique. Stop it now. And then they beat me up for a while.
What were some of those techniques?
Can't talk about them.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
But, and right now, I don't know if I could tell you. But the techniques are classified. But he knew the names of them. I remember because Survival Guy had come out to the desert before the war started and gave us a reminder, kind of a refresher course. Everybody was glued to this guy and gave us a refresher course on all those resistance techniques. So that's how I remembered him. But this guy lived him. And so after the war, I was talking to the DIA about this guy, and they said, yeah, he probably went to SV80 and he may have been an instructor out there.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was disheartening.
Yeah.
But like I said, I never saw his face, not once. And his English was perfect. But so he was tough to beat. And, but you know what? I just kept sticking to my story. And I think eventually they just get tired of you going, we're not getting anything new out of this guy. But unfortunately, that only goes so far. And one of the first things they tell you at survival school is don't lie. Don't lie. But I already committed to that. And 2 other A-10 guys get shot down, and their stories kind of match up. And mine is like so far out in left field, you can't even see it. And so Black Thursday, I remember the guys coming in and saying, why don't you tell me about Colonel Sharp? I've been telling them my commander was Colonel Elwood P. Hinman. He was my commander in advance. He was a T-38 guy. He was never going to be in the war.
Right.
And I flew with him, Colonel Elwood P. Hinman. And I said, oh, Colonel Sharp, you mean my squadron officer school commandant at Maxwell Air Force? He goes, just no. I mean, Colonel Sandy Sharp, your wing commander at King Fahd. And I'd never said Colonel Sharp. I'd never said King Fahd. And it's just like, oh, I'm so busted. They got me. I'm so busted. And so I'm so glad I was blindfolded. So glad, because it's like they would have known. And so right then and there, I knew that they knew that I was lying. And they knew that I knew I was lying. Just like, oh, God, I was so bummed. And then, tell me about this, and tell me about, this F-15 base. Tell me about, blah, 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 this and everything. It's just like, I don't know. I stuck with my lie, and they were livid. One of the worst beatings I got. So in the course of the beatings, the course of the interrogations over there, they broke my nose, they broke my left eardrum, dislocated my right shoulder, and messed up both my knees. And that was, this is one of those kind of interrogations. It was bad.
Was that just your name for it, Black Thursday?
Yeah. Because I'll never forget that interrogation. And so at the end of the interrogation, they said, we know you're lying, and you're still lying, and we're gonna have to shoot you. We're gonna have to execute you Saturday night. We're gonna execute you. And it's like, man, I kind of believed them. It's like, yeah, I have been lying, and and I'm lying. And they every morning, or just before dawn, you'd hear the small arms fire outside the prison, and it's just like, what's going on? Every night the place got bombed. Every single night, the place got not our prison, but Baghdad got bombed. And it was funny. You'd hear the bombs, and then you hear the sirens, and then you hear the AAA. It's like, what are you guys shooting at? These guys are 100 miles away from here. They're already gone, but that's their job. But anyway, so Friday, it's like I know they're going to kill me. I think they're going to kill me. And I was just really disappointed that no one's going to know that I resisted the whole time. I never told those guys squat, and no one's ever going to know that. So it's really like, no one's ever going to know what happened to me. This really sucks.
All that lying for nothing.
Yeah. And we got fed once a day. A little piece of pita bread, and I was skinny. God, it was just.
How long had you been there at this point?
So that was 22, 21. That was the 21st of February. So I've been there 19 days. I got shot down on Groundhog Day, February 2nd.
Wow.
So anyway, so along comes Saturday night, and it's like, man, they're going to do it. They're going to come and kill me. And I was curled up in a corner of my cell when the first bomb hit, and it rattled our cages. Our prison, actually not our prison, but the bunker below our prison had been targeted.
Hmm.
And
Who was in there with you?
I didn't know anybody was in there with me right now.
Okay,
I've been by myself, and I've been asking after interrogation, where are all the other American prisoners? I said, there are no other American prisoners. We kill them all. Said, no, you don't. It's like, well, I haven't heard any, so maybe they are. But anyway, I don't know of anybody.
Yeah, because I mean, it was awfully early on, and I didn't think that there couldn't be that many.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There were quite a few, actually. So anyway, the first bomb hits, and then it's like, we're dead. It's like, I used to pray, don't target our building. I didn't say don't bomb it because, if they target it, they're going to bomb it and they're going to hit it. Because I was watching CNN before I got shot down like everybody else. And those bombs were wicked accurate. Anyway, the second bomb hits and it goes through, right through the hallway where it's supposed to go. Third bomb hits and it goes through the cell next to mine. And I'm curled up. And so the second bomb hit, and a big portion of this, there was a steel grate at the end of my, on one wall, that was covered up with boards, that went to the outside. Anyway, that steel grate got sucked in because the bombs were blown up in the basement in the bunker and sucking a bunch of air in from the top of the building. And it falls on top of me. Well, third bomb hit and part of my cell wall collapses and it fell on that big steel grate, thank God, not right on top of me. And the fourth bomb hits and, anyway, I'm figuring, okay, they're done after 4 bombs. That should be enough. A big chunk of concrete hit me in the forehead, and I was bleeding. My face was all covered in blood. Head wounds bleed a lot, but you're not hurt.
Right.
I've got plenty of stitches in my head from doing stupid things, and yeah, they bleed a lot, but you're not hurt. Anyway, so I'm kind of buried under this rubble. And that's when I hear the first American voices, and there's some people screaming. And I say, American, American. And I hear this voice from across the hall say, Larry Slade. And I said, Dale Storr. And he goes, F-14 Rio. I said, A-10 pilot. And so our ears are ringing.
Yeah,
they're ringing. It was so loud. But we're screaming at the top of our lungs. And anyway, the next thing is, did you hear what happened to my pilot? And I said, who's your pilot? And he said, Devin Jones. I said, yeah, I heard what happened to him. He got rescued. They were in a Tomcat and did a big hijink maneuver on an SA-2 that was shot at him. They had put it into a flat spin, both ejected, and they go out 2 different ways. So anyway, this was the middle of the night over Baghdad, but so they got picked up right away. So then, blah, 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 where are you based, King Fahd and all this other stuff. And then more screaming and yelling. And then we hear this other voice. Things kind of calm down after about 10 minutes. And we hear this voice from down the hall. Actually, I hear the voice from down the hall. It says, hey, Storr, is that you? And I said, yeah. He said, you from King Fahd? I said, yeah. You fly A-10s? Yeah. He said, well, it's good to hear you're alive. It's like, why do you say that? He said, well, I don't know, but everybody back at King Fahd thinks you're dead. I said, well, why do they think I'm dead? He said, I don't know, but I went to your memorial service.
Was it nice?
It's like, yeah. Was it good? He was Sly Fox. He was the last A-10 guy to get shot down. But
wow.
Anyway, yeah, hearing that was like, oh, that's weird. And so I'm kind of fading in and out a little bit, trying to get out from under this pile of rubble.
So you're still stuck under there?
Yeah. And then I hear this voice, another voice from down the hall saying, any Americans here? And bless his heart, Larry Rat Slade said, the F-14 guy says, yeah, there's Americans down here. And he said, well, I'm Bob Simon, CBS News. I say, the news is here. I'm just psyched. It's like, really, the news? Take us with you. Get us out of here. CBS News, take us with you. And Larry's like, hey, Bob, you got to tell the Air Force to quit bombing this place because there's POWs here. And Bob's like, I'll try. And then Larry said, hey, and you have to tell the Air Force that Dale Storr is alive in Baghdad because they think he's dead. I mean, he said that for me because I couldn't say anything. And Bob comes back and said, well, I'll try, but I'm a prisoner too. Like, oh God, Bob, are you serious? But it was Bob Simon. Yeah. And he and I became good friends, but after the war, and unfortunately we lost him a few years ago in a car wreck, but he's a guy who used to be on 60 Minutes. He was a CBS News 60 Minutes reporter.
Oh,
Bob Simon.
That Bob Simon.
Yep. Yep. He'd been captured right after the war started. Yeah. He's up on the Iraq-Saudi border with his film crew. But anyway, they finally get us out of there, and they put us on this bus. This bus doesn't have any seats in it.
Who's they?
The Iraqis.
Okay.
They finally get up there, get us out of our cells, and put us on a big Greyhound bus. It doesn't have any seats in it. They make you sit down, put your knees up and cross your arms over your knees, put your head on your arms, make you sit down and say no talking. So they get me up into the bus. And I see all these guys, some guys in flight suits, a bunch of guys in yellow pajamas, and this one guy in the old scruffy yellow pajamas. He's got this gray hair, this ugly gray beard. I'm thinking, not him. Don't put me next to him. These are all guys towards the back of the bus. Put me next to the flight suits. I want to be next to the flight suits. I'm still in my flight suit.
Mm-hmm.
And, but no. Did they do that? No, they put me next to the scruffy yellow pajama guy.
So who are these yellow pajama guys?
Some of the guys that got their yellow PJs or yellow POW pajamas.
Oh, okay.
I didn't get mine till the last day of when we were there, right before we got released, actually. But so he sit me down next to this guy and hit you on the head, no talking, and then they walk to the front of the bus. And so the first thing I do is I nudge the guy next to me, and he nudges me back. So I'm thinking friendly, right? Probably friendly. Well, I nudge him again. I say, Del Storr, American. And he nudges me back and says, Bob Simon, CBS News. I'm thinking, Bob, you look horrible.
Holy cow.
And so he wrote a book and said, this pilot gets on and his face is all beat up and he just looked, just awful. And it's like, Bob, did you have a mirror? You look way worse than I do. So we'd had this ongoing argument about who looked worse. But anyway, so from there, there's a couple of other incidents on there, but they finally get us to our next prison, which was Abu Ghraib. We called it Joliet, but Abu Ghraib's where those army guys did some stupid pictures with the Iraqi prisoners. Idiots.
Mm.
But, anyway, spent some time in Abu Ghraib, picked up Giardia there.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah, it was gross. Giardia is bad when you have a bathroom nearby. It's worse when you don't.
Oh, shit.
So I got to live in that for a while. Again, just got fed once a day there. And then, from there, it was a little scary. I was on the very end. So I could count the guys going to the water closet every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so make sure the number stayed the same. Anyway, middle of the night, one night, they take a bunch of guys away and they leave 7 of us. It's like, what's going on? And we don't know it, but the war's quickly coming to an end.
Yeah.
And they went to a Republican Guard prison. They went to a nice place. I slept on concrete the whole time I was there. And they had a foam mattress. They got fed twice a day. They got new pajamas. But they left us behind because they didn't have room.
Mm.
They put 7 of us in a thing we call the Bat Cave. And then it was really small. When all 7 of us were laying down on the ground, we were kind of overlapping. Still got fed there once a day. But Mo Mubarak, Kuwaiti A4 pilot who had been shot down, taught me some Arabic because the guards would not talk to him. Muslim, fighting a Muslim type deal. Yeah. So he taught me some Arabic and basically was, please, thank you, more dates and cheese, more bread. And I was able to talk to the guards using Arabic and they were very accommodating with that. They brought us some food.
What kind of shape was that guy in? Because they were probably, if they were pissed at you, they must have really been pissed at him.
He was in pretty good shape. He was a pretty big guy. I think he got shut down later in the war. But he wasn't too roughed up. And I don't know why. But they didn't want to talk to him. And maybe they didn't want to hit him either. I don't know. But once I tried speaking to him in Arabic, they brought us more dates, more cheese. And in fact, M.R. Roberts, one of the guys that I was spooning with in the Bat Cave, we had everybody signed our yellow pajamas when we got back. Mm-hmm. And he put that on mine, more dates and cheese, please. But that was a lifesaver for us. The fact they brought us that food, man, we were all dying.
Yeah.
A bunch of us had Giardia, so that really helped.
How much weight do you think you'd lost at this point?
I weigh 235 now. I was probably 220, 225 when I was shot down. And I think when I got to the hospital ship, I was 172. So
significant.
Yeah.
And then what what kind of water did they give you enough water? Like, were you constantly, just because you had Giardia, you were probably dehydrated.
Yeah, never got any water. They bring you a little bowl of soup and one piece of pita bread once a day.
Damn.
And what I would do is I would take the pita bread, I'd rip it in half, put it down in my flight suit pocket down by my leg there, my foot, and I'd take the piece from yesterday out, the kind of the old dry piece, and I'd dip it in the soup, eat that, and then when I was done with soup, I'd wipe out my bowl with the clean piece or the fresh piece. And then I did that for a couple reasons. One, so I could clean my bowl out, and two, if they didn't feed me the next day, forgot or didn't want to or whatever,
you had a standby.
Yeah.
Man.
But there's one guy in the Biltmore, the first prison we were at, the prison that got bombed. His name was a boss. He was a guard, and he risked his life for us. He would come by in the middle of the night sometimes. One night he gave me soap. One night he gave me water. One night he gave me dates. And if you've never had a date, I'd never had a date before. And so when he comes to your cell, knocks on your door, it's a solid steel cell, and he would quietly open the door because he didn't want anybody knowing he was up there.
Yeah.
And you can't see your hand in front of your face. So you just put your hand out, and he put these cold, slimy things in my hand and put them back in and closed the door. I can't see him.
You don't know what it is.
It could have been a bunch of worms. But I take one. You're like a 2-year-old, I take one, I'll put it in my mouth, and I ate it, bit into it. And it was so sweet. The first sweet thing you've had since we had candy. And it's like, oh my God, these are so good. And then I kept those in my pen pocket on my flight suit, and I'd have one for breakfast in the morning and save the pit.
Must have tasted delicious.
Oh my gosh, it was so good.
How do you like dates now?
I still do. Yeah.
So, total tangent, but eating dates, if you have a date now, does it take you back to that? I mean,
taste not as much as smell. The Arabic language, it still grates on me a little bit. Not as much as it used to. But smells do really bad, and being in cramped, damp places.
Imagine
it. Not too crazy about that.
No.
So,
please continue.
From the Bat Cave, they turned us over to the Republican Guard prison. That's where everybody else was. They had room for us because they'd released the first 10. That was a great thing that President Bush did, who had been shot down in World War II, but had been rescued. He said since it was a conditional surrender, there were conditions that the Iraqis had to abide by, or the war was back on. Unlike World War II, where there were unconditional surrenders, and we did whatever we wanted. But this was conditional. And his first condition was, I want 10 guys back in 24 hours. And his second condition was, I want the rest of them back in 48 hours. So get busy.
Yeah.
And thank God he did that. Otherwise, because we talked about it. After we got bombed, they put us all in one room at Abu Ghraib before they put us to our individual cells. And we're like, so let's say the war ends tomorrow. When are we going home? Is it like a month, 6 months? How long is it going to take for them to get us out of here? But so we had no idea, but that was a great thing President Bush did for us.
Yeah. Just real quick, what was bombings aside, what was like a normal day? Like, because you weren't still being interrogated at that point. You'd already filled them full of shit. So
yeah, never got interrogated after the Biltmore.
Okay,
that's what we called the first prison that we were at. Never got interrogated after that. So an average day in Abu Ghraib was, you wake up and you can watch the sun come up, and then you listen to the guards outside because you can't see outside, but you can hear what's going on in the courtroom, courtyard. We were up on the second floor. We called it Joliet because it looked like the prison from the Blues Brothers, but the opening bay in the middle. But yeah, I mean, why not? But so yeah, you wake up. I tried doing tap code with my cellmate, Bob Wetzel. I didn't have anybody on the other side because I was on the end of the hallway, but...
was it the same tap code that the guys used at the Hanoi Hilton? I mean, it was just kind of, okay.
Except Bob was a Navy guy, A6 guy who'd been shot down, and I was an Air Force guy. And to that day, we had 2 tap codes. We had one for the Air Force and one for the Navy. And so I tapped gibberish to him for the first 3 days. And then he finally figured out, oh, Air Force guy, Air Force tap code. And so now, you know how many tap codes we have now?
I would hope one.
We have one.
Yeah.
At least they were smart enough to do, okay, we're teaching one tap code.
Yeah.
So I can't believe we were still doing that. But we're using the Air Force tap code. But so tap to him, and then just hang out, and then you just do whatever you can to, keep your mind sane. I used to drive myself up and down Division Street here in Spokane, go down Riverside back and forth. I'd do math problems. Because I'm, stupid engineer. Just anything you can. I'd sing songs, make up words for songs that I didn't know all the words to.
Yeah.
So anything you do to keep your mind going and stop about thinking where you're at.
Yeah. I heard several stories about like guys that are like, they build houses in their mind. And have you ever listened to Jocko? Well, I guess you don't listen. There was a guy named Charlie Plum who was shot down during Vietnam. And he told very similar stories about the exercises his brain would do to kind of keep him grounded and like what some of his other, his cellmates or some of the other guys did.
Yeah.
He never mentioned anything about the different tap codes though. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
That's all right. So, from the Batcave, they finally released us to the Republican Guard prison because they had room. Bob Wetzel and Maurizio Carcellone were in the Batcave with us, and they were part of the first 10 to go. So there was 5 of us left. We still don't know what they're doing. It's like, what's going on? The war's over, but we don't know it. And so they were part of the first 10. They drove to Saudi Arabia. We got flown, so that was a little nicer.
Oh, yeah.
They went through Jordan. But anyway, but they got out. And so we got to the Republican Guard prison. I got a plate of food that had a piece of pita bread on it, a hard-boiled egg, and a tangerine, and I could barely eat it, but I ate every bit of it. But man, I was stuffed. Then got my brand new pajamas, and then they turned us over to the Red Cross.
How were they treating you at this point? Like, because I know they were pretty nasty at the beginning when they were interrogating you. But what was it like now?
They were still jerks.
Yeah.
They were still, jerks. They didn't like us. But no, they didn't improve their treatment substantially. The whole time that we were getting barely fed, it's like, well, this whole country's starving, right? Because we've been bombing the hell out of this. The whole place is a train wreck.
Yeah.
Well, no, it wasn't. We weren't bombing the supermarkets. We weren't bombing the farms. Because I remember driving through the bus, going to the Novotel after we get released from the Republican Guard prison. We're with the Red Cross now, and we're driving by all these open air markets, people just walking through, doing their shopping. There's food everywhere. It's like, you bastards had all this food and we didn't get any of it. I was pissed. And it wasn't the Iraqi people. It was the guards.
Yeah.
It was the regime. It wasn't them.
Sure.
So anyway, they turned us over to the Red Cross, the Novotel. Red Cross did a great job taking care of us. Got us some hot water. Got to take a bath. And then got to put my clothes back on, and they reeked.
Bad.
Yeah, I couldn't not believe how bad I stunk. But anyway, and from there, we're supposed to go out that night, but we couldn't get out. So spent the night in the Novotel. They had sandstorms in Riyadh, so they couldn't get the airplanes into Baghdad. So the next morning, they took us out to the airport, put us on the airplanes, and flew us home.
Now, did you? At what point did you get to make a phone call and tell your family that you were not dead?
When I was on the hospital ship, the Mercy, that was out there in Sheikh Isa in Bahrain. From Riyadh, they flew us. They put us on a 141. It was Red Cross airplanes out of Baghdad, and then we all landed in Riyadh, and all the Americans, which pissed us off because we didn't know we were getting split up, but all the Americans went from Riyadh to Sheikh Isa. And that's where they put us on the hospital ship, the Mercy. We spent 3 days there, and that's where I made my first phone call home.
Who'd you call?
My mom. Yeah, I wasn't married, didn't have a girlfriend, so called my mom, and it was
No.
What's what?
So you said that your brothers didn't tell her that they thought you were dead. So what did she know at this point?
So she knew I was always listed. First, I was missing, whereabouts unknown, and then after I think 2 or 3 days, I went missing in action. So I was always officially listed as MIA because the Iraqis never told the Red Cross that they had me. I made 2 videos, but I think they had beaten my face up so much they didn't want to put them on TV, so they never aired them.
You were not presentable.
I was probably not presentable. So they called my mom and said, watch CNN the day the prisoners get released because your son might be one of them. That's all they could say because although the other POWs had told him, yeah, that's Dale Storr. But it's like, did you know Dale before he was shut down? Or is this just somebody saying he's Dale Storr? So, they're like, no, I didn't know him before he was shut down. So they couldn't, when it comes to human intel, they can't be too sure about that. So anyway, so that's what they told my mom. And then, that's when she saw when I got off the airplane in Riyadh, when I got off the Red Cross airplane, that's when they knew I was alive.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was that conversation like with your mom?
I remember they gave us this giant brick of a cell phone, right? On the Mercy. And they said, dial this number and say it's Miss Liberty calling and they'll put you through. And I thought that's all it'd be. And so I dial this number and I get some operator, hello, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I said, I'm supposed to say this is Miss Liberty calling. And she's like, okay, hold on. It's like she doesn't know what it is. And then like a minute later, she was back, oh, welcome home. I'm so sorry. Blah,
oh my
blah.
gosh.
She didn't know what it meant. It's like, hey, you guys were home. So happy for you guys. Blah, blah, put you right through. But then my mom answers the phone. It's like, hi, Mom. Hi, Dale. I'm glad you're okay. Yeah. So, I mean, she'd already been through it in Vietnam.
Yeah.
We had neighbors that had been shot down. And so, I remember as a little kid, my dad took us out to the KC-135 at Westover where the POWs were getting off the airplane. So we lost a few airplanes out of Westover and not all of them made it back. Yeah. I remember as a little kid, you'd be sitting in your classroom and the guy in the blue uniform comes up and takes a kid out of class. You never see that kid again. Yeah, because his dad's not coming back.
Dang.
So, it's, I guess you learn from that, but I know my mom was pretty tough. So,
wow. You saw there's several movies that, portray the guys coming to the door and the wife dissolves into tears. But I never thought about the kid in class that they come and get him. And dang, that's.
Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough. But yeah, I'm glad I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to pull any kids out of class. But
no kidding.
No, it was a great feeling coming home though, and had a great reunion in DC. The Air Force flew a bunch of my all my family, obviously, and then I had some Air Force buddies there, college buddies, high school buddies. It was a great reunion.
Where did you come? What was your first stop when you came home?
First stop.
Did you see?
So we went from Shakeyza to Riyadh, I think, and then Riyadh we were supposed to go to Sigonella, but they had bad weather, so we went to Shannon, Ireland, which was awesome. My best friend in the Hog at the time was Roger Clark, and he was what's called a ghost. They sent everybody who had been shot down during the war. They sent to Riyadh when the POWs got released. And so they did everything for us. Dodge took care of everything. He had a uniform for me. He had boots for me. He had everything I needed. He took care of all the admin stuff for me. He was awesome. But he's the guy who met me coming off the airplane. And then he and I flew to Shannon, Ireland, and we got to Shannon. And so the 3 days on the Mercy, I don't know what he did, but I was, getting poked and prodded the whole time. But I had giardia. And so the doc said, here's some Flagyl. Take it. It'll eventually get rid of your giardia, vitamin F. And so I was popping that stuff like it was candy. We get to Shannon, Ireland, and it's like, they said, you can get off the airplane if you want. Almost everybody stayed on. Most of the ghosts got off. I got off and said, we're going to a bar. We're in Ireland. We're going to a bar.
I was going to ask you that.
And we did. And we're drinking. I got a great picture of Dodge and I drinking at this Irish bar and blah, blah, blah. Get on the airplane again. Then we stop in Andrews Air Force Base where I stayed for a week. And I got the medical side was in the morning. And then I got the debriefing in the afternoon. And one of the first things the doc asked me is like, so you had some beer in Ireland? I said, yeah, I had 3 or 4 pints. It was great. I said, are you taking your vitamin F? Are you taking your Flagyl? It's like every day, 3 times a day. He says, and it doesn't bother you? I said, nope, because that's something they used to give to alcoholics because it would make them vomit.
Yeah,
It would
like
make them nauseous.
yeah.
But it's only 95% effective. And he says, you're lucky. You're part of that 5% that it doesn't
You could have
bother.
gotten sick as hell.
But yeah, so I spent a week at Andrews, and then from there, the doc said you have to go home for 30 days, home of record. So I had to go back to Spokane for 30 days, required to put weight back on.
Mhm.
And then if you want 3 months, just make a phone call and you can have 3 months at home. If you want 6 months, just write me a letter, and you can be home for 6 months. Yeah. You can be home for 6 months paid. And then, we'll get you back to work. And so after 2 weeks at home, I bought my own airplane ticket and went back down to Louisiana and watched my squadron come home.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
So know what was this Marchish later?
Yep.
March,
Yep, this is March. I got home. We got released on the 6th of March.
Okay. Yeah, because it's about the time we came home too.
Yeah. So my squadron came home, I think, 3 weeks after the war was over. So that's about the time I was down there. And it's exactly the day I get down there the day before. And then watched them come home, spent a weekend with them. And then I had to go home. And then a month later, I couldn't stand it. So I drove back down to Alex. I got there I reported in on a Friday and I flew on Monday.
Wow. And how were you feeling at that point? I mean, like,
Great. I still had Giardia, but felt
it's
good.
still skinny too.
Yeah. I was still pretty skinny, but I put some weight back on. But no, a real good friend of mine, Jim Schmick, who was in my squadron, who from Spokane here, he got me going to the gym, and again, he and I have been working out before, but he got me back in the gym, and we got some weight back on.
So a couple questions for you.
Mhm.
Any lasting physical injuries?
They messed up my knees pretty good. I got some real bad tinnitus, and I think that was from the bombing.
Mm-hmm.
The bombs were so loud, but you felt the shock more than anything else.
Yeah.
Other than that, not really. No, my shoulder bugged me for a while, but I've rehabbed that enough. So I think it's all right.
So you went through a lot more than a lot of guys went through.
Yeah, but not as much as some.
True enough. Very true. Do you have any PTSD?
Yeah, I got some, but I've learned to live with it, learned to manage it. My wife's helped me a lot with it, and helped me come to terms with it. So yeah, there's always going to be some, but I think we all do in some way, shape, or form. So I can at least see where mine comes from, and so it helps a lot in managing it. So
what were if you don't mind me asking, what are your techniques for dealing with PTSD?
I just it's different, and different situations bring up different reactions. I used to get just really angry for just almost nothing, and Kathy's talked to me about it, and what are you really angry at, and why is this really bothering you, and this kind of stuff. And so the more I've been able to rationalize it and look at that, going, that's dumb. You're being stupid for thinking this way and acting this way. So it's more of me just trying to rationalize what is triggering this and what's causing that, and trying to step away from it and going, you don't need to do this. You're bigger than that. Don't do this, and don't let them do that to you.
Yeah.
So that's what helps me.
Yeah, and
don't let them win.
And not to correct you, but it's not stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, it's well rooted. It's quite, it's justified.
You're right. You're right.
And that's a hell of a story. And I really appreciate you sharing it.
You bet, Ty.
And is there anything else? Is there more that you'd like to share? Because I'm all ears. This has been fascinating.
Oh, there's a bunch of little things in there, but no, not really. I think that's the gist of it. That's that's the Reader's Digest version. But those are the big things that happened over there. How
do you feel about our Middle Eastern brothers and sisters now?
I've met some really good people. I don't carry a big grudge against them.
Mhm.
My guards, sure. If I met them in a dark alley, it'd be a different story now.
Sure.
But as far as the Iranian people or Iraqi people or, the Saudis, the Kuwaitis, no, I don't carry any hatred towards them, any bitterness. It wasn't them doing it.
Sure.
It's a bad regime. It's a bad administration, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I really don't have a problem with any of them over there.
Well, you went through a lot. I mean, like, how many times did you almost die? Like, that's...
Yeah. I don't know why I'm not dead. But yeah, I'm sure you're glad I'm not yet. But, yeah, the ejection, that was really close.
Yeah.
I can't believe this guy's on the ground didn't just shoot me right there.
Mm-hmm. Well, they wanted to get paid, man.
Yeah.
At least they thought they were going to get paid.
Yeah. And the bombing, I can't believe we survived the bombing. The one thing I want to say about that, it was, so after the war, a good buddy of mine, one of my best friends in the A-10, Matt Bird, he said he left the squadron just before we deployed, and he tried everything not to go. He is just an outstanding guy. He's still one of my best friends today. And, but they took him, bitching and clawing his way to stay in. Said, nope, you're coming with us. He went to another assignment. And after the war, I was having some cigars and whiskey at his house in Texas. And he said, hey, Storman, you want to see a video of your prison getting bombed? And it's like, yeah, you got that? He says, I sure do. And so he put it into his tape player and watched it. And I could see the first bomb hit and the second bomb hit, third bomb that went through the cell next to mine, fourth bomb hit.
Wow.
And it's like, man, how did you get this? He says, it's mine. It's his HUD film.
Oh, no shit. So
he got assigned to the F-117 and went to that. He's the only guy in his RTU class, his training class, that deployed to the war. And then he got assigned that target that night.
No shit. So
and I asked him, did you know we were there? He goes, yeah, I knew what cell you're in. I said, if you knew what cell I was in, why'd you put a bomb next to mine? He said, well, I didn't want to put it through yours. It's like, well, thanks, Birdman. And I'm glad you didn't miss.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And I watched the bomb. I watched the HUD film. It goes, that's my cell right there. And that's the bomb going through it.
Wow.
Next to mine. Yeah.
That's something, man.
But he couldn't. He says, yeah, we knew you were alive. We knew you were there. But it was human intelligence, a boss, that guard who came by in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one who got that word back, and you can't risk human intelligence.
Yeah.
So if the Iraqis had found out that the United States is, figuring out who's alive and where they're at, they would have known they had a mole, and they would have found out. And Abbas was the only guy who went from the Biltmore to Abu Ghraib.
Really?
Somebody called him that night and said, don't go to work.
No kidding.
Yeah. I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
Wow.
But yeah, small world.
Yeah, no kidding. Dale, thank you very much for your talk today.
You bet. You bet, Ty. That was good.
Yeah. Yeah, that was amazing. And I'm come down and have a drink at your bar.
Let me know. Shoot me a text and I'll meet you there.
Will do.
All right. Tell you some more stories.
Good. Thanks, buddy.
All right. Thanks, Ty.
Well, that'll about do it for this episode of The People We Meet. But before we wrap up, I want to give a huge shout out to my main man, J-Mac, over at Studio 42 Recordings. I couldn't do this without you, brother. And much love to my family for their constant support. And most of all, thank you, the listeners. This show exists because you keep showing up, and I don't take that lightly. And if you like what you hear, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. Give the show a follow and spread the word. And if you know someone with a story that just has to be told, or if that someone is you, drop me a line at thepeoplewemeetpodcast.com. Thank you for listening, and be good to each other.